Shalom, my friends from here in the Holy Land. Shalom from Israel. We're here at this week's live broadcast that we do every single Tuesday at this time, which is 3 o'clock p.m. Israel time. So I invite you every week to tune in as we deal with different issues surrounding faith, surrounding Judaism, surrounding family, surrounding fellowship, and there's always very interesting things going on. One of the things that a lot of people have asked me to address is how I tie my headscarf and how, as a woman, I'm a mother of 4, I have an amazing husband, and how we juggle in faith the balance of being a mother, being a wife, taking care of the house, and also so many women are out in the professional field as well. So this is what we're going to do today. First, we're going to deal with women figures in the Bible. Then we're going to deal with women in modern faith. And then you're going to learn how to tie a headscarf, as so many of you have been asking me. And I'm going to use my beautiful daughter as the mannequin for how to tie the headscarf. So when I think about women in the Bible, there are a few figures that really stand out to me the most. The first one is Moses' mother, right? We know that Moses was born during a time when Pharaoh said that all Jewish boys had to be killed, that they had to be thrown into the sea and killed because no Jewish boys, he saw in the stars that there was going to be a leader of Israel that was going to redeem the Jewish people, that was going to be born right around that time. And so Pharaoh said, throw all the boys into the sea. And it was actually Moses' father that said we shouldn't have kids. And Moses' mother said, if you don't want to have kids because of this decree, you're worse than Pharaoh. Not only are you killing the Jewish boys, but you're killing the Jewish girls as well. And Moses was born, and we know that the midwives Shiphrah and Puah came to help deliver Moses. And his mother said, I can't throw him into the sea. I can't kill him. I have faith in God. I'm going to wrap him in a basket, and I'm going to put him in the river, and I know God will protect him. And so they put him in the river, and he went floating along, and we know that his sister, Miriam, followed along the river, watching her baby brother. And when they got to when it got to the shore, it was right by Pharaoh's castle. And it was actually Bat Paro, the daughter of Pharaoh, who went and saved Moses. And so we see who was the redeemer of Israel during this time from the Jews being enslaved in Egypt. It was Moses. But who can we attribute to Moses being alive at all in order to redeem the people of Israel and bring them from Egypt into Israel, from slavery into freedom? The women, his mother and his sister. And then I think of this story just a few weeks ago. I was at Mount Tabor, and I think of the story of Deborah, how there was a leader, military leader of Israel who saw the Canaanites coming to fight the Israelites, and the military leader of Israel said, no, we can't defeat them. They're so much more than us. We should just give up, throw our hands up, and say that we'll never win. And Deborah, who was a prophetess and a judge, she said, well, then redemption will come from a woman. And she went and she led the army of Israel, which was much less than the Canaanites, to victory, because she knew when we act in righteousness, in godliness, God blesses us. That what we see with our eyes here in this world isn't how it is. It isn't how it appears reality. We live in a faith-based reality. And we know when we turn our hearts up to God, God answers us. And that's why nothing is beyond God. Here in Israel especially, we don't just say that, but we live it. The fact that we are here in Israel after 2,000 years, just as the prophets foretold, is testimony to the fact that God performs miracles for those who pray for it. And so in the time of the Bible, when Deborah came and she led the Israelite army to defeat the Canaanites, and then it was Sisera, that was who was leading the Canaanite army, and he saw that his army was being defeated. He said, oh gosh, I'm going to lose, and they're going to come for me because I'm the leader. And he ran away. He abandoned his troops. And he went and he went looking for refuge, someone that would protect him and give him refuge from running away from the Jews who he tried to attack and kill and wipe out. And he found the tent of, can any of you guess? Any of you know whose tent he went to? Let's see. Write in the comments whose tent he went to. Let's see. He went to Yael's tent. That's written in English as Jael. And Sisera found refuge, exactly, thank you, Anu, you are exactly correct. He found refuge in Yael's tent, and we know that he was still a threat to the Jewish people, still a threat to the Israelites. Connie, exactly. Wanda, exactly. All of you guys are very versed in your biblical women, good for you. And so Yael gave him something to eat, gave him something to drink, he fell asleep, and she killed him, and thereby saving the Jewish people during that time. And so when we look throughout the Bible, it's very, very clear that the Jewish women were empowered. When we look at the stories of the Bible, we see that God wants women to act, to be leaders, to be forefront in creating his kingdom here on earth. Who knows, who can guess who I'm thinking about when I say she was put in a situation of power for such a time as this? Who can guess who I'm talking about? Who can guess who I'm referring to? I'm talking about a woman who also saved the Jewish people from another evil leader who wanted to annihilate the Jewish people. Who can guess which woman I'm talking about? Yes, Kristen. Esther, exactly. Yes, Juan. Good job, Esther. Good, Wanda. Yeah, we have a lot of biblically versed people here. Thank you, Paula. I'm talking about Esther. That we know that there was evil King Haman who wanted to destroy the Jewish people, who encouraged King Ahasuerus to put out a decree to kill Jewish people in all of the lands. And then it was Queen Esther who went, told him, revealed her true identity, and went to Ahasuerus, who ended up killing Haman and his sons on the same at the same place that was created to kill the Jewish leaders. And so this is another story where God tells us that he puts women in a position of empowering these leaders to see through God eyes, to transition from evil eyes, and to indeed see through God eyes. And so that leads us to women's role today in faith, in life, in Judaism. And one of the things that I always found so beautiful about Judaism was that it really is a balance. There are certain laws of modesty for women, just as there are for men, but it's all balanced. It's saying to the women, show your beauty. You're supposed to be beautiful, but you're supposed to be beautiful like a Proverbs woman, from the inside out. And you're not supposed to dress too revealing that people are going to look at you and only see you for your body. And you're also not supposed to hide your face and your body to the point that no one could see it. God created beauty in this world, and we're supposed to celebrate that beauty, but in a holy way. And so as you'll notice, a lot of faithful religious Jewish women will not wear tank tops. Many religious women also do, but following the traditional way that it's been done, many Jewish women look beautiful, take care of themselves. It's not like many of the religious, other religions that, let's say, cover their face because they say, no, you can't look at women. But it's also not like the totally secular that say you could wear whatever you want. Because Judaism says you should respect women. You should respect women for their minds. You should respect women for their faith. You should respect women for their faith. And that's what we see in the biblical Esther, in the biblical Miriam, in the biblical Jael, in the biblical Deborah. These women who are not hiding in the house, not hiding in a room and letting the men do everything, but rather taking a leadership role in leading the people in faith. Now, everyone really has to decide for themselves what's modest for them. But it's an important thing to remember, both men and women, to check in with yourself and say, is this modest for me? A lot of religious Jewish women only wear long sleeves. Others wear short sleeves. Others wears tank tops. Some people go only to the beach in bathing suits, and some people, everyone has to do their own thing. But we have to use certain guidelines of checking in with ourselves, of having this overall concept of modesty, and not to take it to one extreme that we want to hide ourselves and hide out in a closed room so no one sees us. That's not what God wants. But also to make sure that we're representing ourselves in a faithful way. Now, in a Jewish home, there are some traditional roles, and there are some roles that are kind of mixed. In raising a family, it's really mixed, which is something that's very beautiful. In my family, we have been blessed with 4 children, and both me and my husband share the house and children chores, and we really have a partnership. There's nothing in Judaism that says that women can't go out and work, or that women have to stay at home, or that women have to be in the kitchen and men shouldn't. There's nothing like that. Traditionally, up until our generation really, it was traditional that women would stay at home and men would go out to work. They were the homemakers, men would go out and work. And that's traditionally what Jewish women did also. But as the times changed, Judaism and women's place within Judaism changed as well. And so I would say, to sum it up, in Judaism, the woman is the spirituality of the home and the man is more the anchor. What do I mean by that? Men have a biblical obligation, just as it used to be that we would bring sacrifices to the temple. When the temple was destroyed, there was instituted prayer, certain times for traditional prayer. Men have an obligation to pray 3 times a day in Judaism. Women don't have the same obligation. But women have an obligation to search and to pray for their children, not necessarily the traditional prayers, but it's traditionally the women's role to pray for the children, to pray for the family. There are all different things that set up this structure of completion, of the man and the woman and the children and God completing each other. It says that there are 3 creators, 3 partners in the creation of life: the man, the woman, and God. And so that's really the setup of the house, that we don't have any things that women should not do or men should not do, but we really create a system that works for everyone. In being the warrior women, thank God I've been blessed with a husband who really encourages me to go out and do good things in the world and be an influence and be godliness. And my husband is the one that always, not only is my source of encouragement, but also inspiration. That he really brings me down to the roots of studying the Bible portion every single week, of going and praying from the Siddur, from the prayer book, the traditional prayers. We are a balance in this world. We're made up of both body and soul, and we have to find the balance in that. And just as we are created in body and soul, and we have to find the balance between doing things for our body that we need, but not forgetting about our soul, and also vice versa. Judaism says, don't go sit on top of a mountain meditating for your whole life and only focusing on your soul. God created you with a body. You have to take care of that body. You have to appreciate that body. You have to celebrate that body. And you have to use that body to do good in the world. And so we pray that we use our feet to go out and do good deeds, that we use our hands, a Proverbs woman. But I'll tell you a secret. In the Bible, when it talks about women and men, it's not talking about an actual woman and men. It's talking about certain attributes. A lot of time we'll refer to God in our prayers as, for example, Modim Anachnu Lach. We say, we are worshiping you, but you in the feminine term. In Hebrew, there are feminine and masculine terms. You could say Lach is for a girl. For example, you'd say, Ani rotza latet lach et ze. I want to give you this, but you're talking to a girl. Or for a boy, you would say, Ani rotza latet lecha et ze. That you want to give him this. And so a lot of times in prayers, we switch off between calling God in a feminine term and in a masculine term. And what that shows us is that we all have both of those sides within us. We have certain masculine characteristics, just as we have certain feminine characteristics. And so the prayer and the goal and the work is to try to embrace both of these and to know in what situations we're supposed to use our feminine characteristics of being caring and being soft and being prayerful from the heart and really using our hands to manifest God's feminine sides. And we have to also know when we have to use those masculine sides of going out to war, of being the fighter, fighting for what's right, of being more intense, maybe you would say. But we all have both sides within us. God is not either exclusively male or female, masculine or feminine, and we are created in the image of God. And so by reflecting God, we have to know when to use our feminine, when to use our masculine, and to always have this dance in between of our body and soul, masculine and feminine, worldly and heavenly, and uniting those in order to bring peace to our lives, to our families' lives, and to the world. Now, we spoke about modesty and representing ourselves in a modest way, and that leads me to the head covering. You'll see that very often I wear a headscarf, and you'll see other Jewish women also wearing a headscarf. And I know many of my Christian brothers and sisters have said that when they remember when their parents and grandparents went to church, they would always wear a hat. Does anybody remember that? Does anyone have any stories of their mothers going to church or going to a place of worship and always putting on a hat as a sign of modesty? Now, we've kind of lost that in our generation, that covering your hair or wearing a hat doesn't really symbolize modesty in this generation anymore. It's not something that people necessarily put together. But it's one of these ancient traditions that a lot of Jewish women have held onto, just as we said a lot of Christians have held onto, of going to church and putting on the most beautiful hat. A lot of times I think about the African American churches, or seeing in Ghana or in Africa, how whenever they worship, they're wearing these big, beautiful turbans and hats and colorful. I see that Paula Cribb says that her grandmother always wore a bonnet to church. And so this is something that for thousands of years was the tradition, that women, when they were in place of worship, in a place of celebration, they would cover their hair. And so there's a lot of things, there's different places or contexts of where Jewish women got the foundation of covering their hair from. For example, there's a story in the Bible of Isha Sota, the adulterous woman, that it says when they brought her to the high priest, she had to uncover her hair. So from that, we know that the women back then covered their hair as a sign of modesty. But it's also very much in the context of just tradition. Traditionally, women have covered their hair during a time of worship and celebration, as we just spoke about. And also, up until recently, these modern times when we have the state of Israel and America and Europe and freedom and expression, most of the Jewish communities were mixed within the Arab world. Babylon, we know we have the Babylonian Talmud, for example. One of the biggest and thriving Jewish communities was in Babylon, which is modern-day Iraq. We even know that it was so established that during the Second Temple, and the Second Temple was rebuilt 70 years after the First Temple was destroyed, most of the Jews from Babylon didn't go back to Israel to celebrate the Second Temple being built. They stayed in Babylon, where it was very safe. It was very thriving with the Jewish life, thriving with godliness, with prayer, with studying of the Bible, that they said, why do I have to go back to Israel? And so Jews traditionally have lived in Arab societies. And so the Jewish women didn't want to stand out as not covering their hair when all of the Arab women around them were covering their hair and even wearing hijabs. That even today, when the fellowship brings home Jews from the Arab world, there are still some Jews left in the Arab world. I'm going to move a little bit out of the sun. I see that. Okay. Sorry about that. A little bit of a technical difficulty, but perfect. So traditionally, sorry, the camera fell. Leave it just like that. It's perfect. When Jews lived in the Arab world, they didn't want to stand out from the Arab women. They didn't want to go out without anything on their head, because then they really faced a risk of being raped, of being called different names. It was dangerous. And so what we do now is, and so what they traditionally did, do you hear me? Let's see. Sorry, let me see this. Do you hear me? Could you guys tell me if you hear me or not? Let's see. Do you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Could everyone tell me if they could hear me or not? Let's see. Yeah, you could hear me? Okay. I'm not sure. Okay. Can you hear me? Yes, you can hear me. Okay, great. Sorry about that interruption. Okay, so traditionally when Jews lived in the Arab countries, the women covered their hair to go out to the marketplace, to go out to public areas, so that they wouldn't stand different from the Arab women, because they didn't want to stand out and be targeted. And so there are a lot of things that go into a Jewish woman covering her hair. And so it's carried on to today. Not every Jewish woman covers her hair. Not every Jewish woman, even if she's very religious and very faithful, covers her hair at all. And not every Jewish woman will cover all of her hair. Some women will cover with just a hat or with just a headband. It's not something like keeping the Shabbat. That if you call yourself an Orthodox Jew and you really live a life of orthodoxy in Judaism, then you keep the Shabbat, which we will talk about a different day. Covering the hair is not the same as keeping the Sabbath holy, as we are straight up commanded in the Bible to do. This is something that I would call more tradition, that you'll see a lot of women keeping this tradition, but not everyone does. And so, in going with that, I want to invite my daughter to come. 1 second, let me set up this phone this way. Okay, let's set up. Okay, I have all of my, could everyone see me? I have my beautiful daughter here with me to be the example of how to cover her hair. And I have all of my hair covering paraphernalia, if you will. We have a few different things. I have a few different kinds of scarves. Okay. This is a special headband that you could get from most scarf shops that keeps the head covering from falling off. A lot of times people ask me, how do you move around and the scarf doesn't fall off? So this is a special headband I'm going to put on my beautiful daughter. Something else that I didn't add is that in Judaism, women only start covering their hair, those that do, after they get married. It's the sign that they're married. And so my daughter, for example, would not cover her hair right now. This is just as an example and for fun. Jewish women who you see covering their hair, it's a sign that they're married. So that's also important to know. So we put on the headband. Okay, let's see here. We're going to put on this headband so that the headscarf doesn't slip. Now, there are two kinds of headscarves that I'm going to show you. One is just a triangle. It's actually a big square scarf, and then I folded it until it got into a triangle. Now I'm going to put this on top, just like a bandana. Here I have both sides. I'm going to tie it on top of this, the end of the triangle. I'm going to tie it on top of there. Okay, there are a lot of, you could leave it like this, which is beautiful. Smile for the camera. Or you could tie it around. So now you have it in back, you could see you have two edges from what you tied. And you could wrap it around the top and down into the bottom. Now, if it reaches it, depending on how long it is, some of them you could tie again underneath so that it won't fall off. And if it doesn't reach down there, you could just tuck it in to the side where you tied it. Okay, so let's see. Beautiful. You ready to be a mother? Just kidding. So this is one way to tie the headscarf. So those were two different options of how to tie the headscarf. It's a lot easier than it looks. It looks so beautiful. It looks like it'd be so hard. But you're just buying a big square scarf, folding it in half to make a triangle, and then tying it over, tying it just like a bandana. And then if you want, you could wrap each long end around your head. Okay? So we have that kind. Now I'm going to show you one other kind, which is actually the kind that I'm wearing right now, and how to tie another kind. So as we said, this was a square. We tie it into a triangle, okay? Now this is another kind. This is a big, long scarf that maybe many of you even have in your house to wrap around your neck or to use in different ways. That you could use this as a neck scarf or you could wear it as a headscarf. So we're going to tie it, put it out the long way, and then fold it in half, okay? So we're going to fold it in half so it's very, very long. And then we're going to fold it in half again. Okay, so we're folding it from top to bottom so that it's not so thick. And then we're going to fold it again lengthwise to find where the middle is, okay? So we're folding it and we put our finger where the middle is. Here is the middle. Okay, everyone understand? And then you put the middle right in the middle of your forehead also. You put it around just like we did with the other one, and then you tie it underneath, just as we did with the other one. Okay, now we have two long edges from tying it, and we do exactly what we did with the other one, is that we put it around the head. One on top of the head this way, and the other on top of the head this way. Now these are long, so they will tie underneath where your bun is. You tie it, and you could either leave these sticking out that I think are pretty, or you could stick them in. Want to smile for the camera? And that is how you tie a Jewish head wrapping. I hope you found this informative and helpful, and I just pray that we will all be the Proverbs women, be associated with Proverbs women, and learn from the mighty warriors of the Bible, and not necessarily from women that we celebrate today, what a true holy woman is, and we should all be worthy to be surrounded by them. God bless you from here in Israel.